Thank you all for joining. We will begin our webinar shortly. We'll just wait for a few more people to join. But in the meantime, please feel free to check that your internet is stable and that you have access to the chat. And as you do that, feel free to drop your introductions in the chat. Just mention your name, where you're joining us from, and the organization that you are representing. As mentioned, we will start shortly. Thank you. Once again, thank you all for joining. As mentioned, we will be starting shortly. In the meantime, please feel free to check your internet connection, make sure it's stable, and feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat by sharing your name, organization, and where you are joining us from. We will be starting shortly. Thank you. Welcome everyone, and we're so excited to have you all. Good morning, good evening to all our participants joining us from different parts of the world. My name is 𝗪𝗪𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 and I'm super delighted to welcome you to our 5th webinar series on and in our sanitation data systems series titled the Sanitation Data and Operations Management Systems, where we spotlight different data and operational management systems across sub-Saharan Africa. And I'd like to reiterate for our usual and frequent participants, but also for the participants joining us for the first time, that when we say data and operation management systems, we actually mean systems that enable utilities and municipalities to define their key data needs, generate, analyze, and operationalize data for not just service delivery, but also improvement in internal performance management. Once again, feel free to continue introducing yourselves in the chat. Just mention your name, the organization that you're from, and where you are currently joining us from. This webinar series is brought to you by Dev-Afrique Development Advisors in collaboration with the Eastern and Southern Water and Sanitation Regulators Association, commonly known as ESAWAS, and the Global Water Operators Partnerships Alliance, GWOPA. This dynamic partnership has brought together a team of experts whose mission is to support the development of sustainable and inclusive public service data systems, specifically for sanitation across Africa, combining expertise, passion to deliver this impactful series. Our webinar series spotlights water and sanitation data and operations management systems across Africa, with some, as you will see in some of the subsequent webinars, as best practices from South Asia. Just before we proceed, I would also like to encourage everyone on the call to join the GWOPA's urban sanitation community of practice and also the ESAWAS Engage platforms, just to continue driving these conversations around non-sewered sanitation and sanitation data system strengthening, and learn what others are doing in their respective utilities and countries as a whole. We will post the registration links in the Teams chat, so just look out for those and feel free to join the platforms. Our agenda for today is we will have welcome and introductions, which we have done, and then we will get into the ESAWAS Sanitracker presentation, and then we will have a demo of what the platform actually does, and this will include both the mobile version and the web version. And so look forward to that, and then we are going to have a 5-minute break just for everyone to stretch, grab coffee in preparation for the question and answer session. Please feel free to come back with as many questions as possible. And for those that have already read the learning material that was shared on the Sanitracker alongside the webinar registration link, feel free to have your questions ready as well for that question and answer session. And then we'll have a few next steps and announcements, and then we will close. Before we begin, just a reminder on a few housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be shared with all the registered participants afterwards. Look out for that. And we have muted all your microphones during the initial phase of the webinar, which is the presentation and the demo, just to avoid any interruptions, but we will unmute your microphones during the Q&A session. So during the Q&A session, we encourage you to use the raising your hand feature for those that are comfortable, and we will call upon those that will raise their hands to ask their questions. And for those that will not be comfortable to speak or may have internet stability issues, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and the team will pick out those questions and read them out for you. So please feel free again to engage in the chat and to ask as many questions as possible. Just as a means of refresher, Dev-Afrique is currently implementing a data system strengthening project in sub-Saharan Africa, and the goal of this project is to improve public data systems for effective decision making and performance management for sanitation service delivery, with a specific focus at the utility and municipal levels. The body of works are split into 5 core areas, where the first one is to improve understanding of data systems strengthening best practices from non-wash sector, where the team has collated insights from other sectors like the health sector on what are those transferable best practices. And I think, I would like to say, look out for a webinar series on those best practices. And then the second one is to improve understanding of the current state of non-sewered sanitation, which is in form of a landscape assessment of the non-sewered sanitation ecosystem from a data systems lens across sub-Saharan Africa. Look out for that report as well. We will share a little bit more updates in the next webinar on how far all of these are. And then we've also been working with ESAWAS and Athena, just supporting the development and piloting of a WASH Data Systems Maturity Index, which helps utilities, municipalities, regulators, and countries to understand how mature their data systems are in order for them to make costed plans for improvement and data system strengthening. Then we have a landscape and develop a landscape assessment of the successful tools that are used within the ecosystem for water and sanitation. And these tools encompass the data and operation management systems across sub-Saharan Africa, and as mentioned, with inclusion of South Asia, just for learning and best practices purposes. And then the last body of work is just to provide technical support, cross-learning for non-sewered sanitation data systems best practices. And this particular webinar falls under the auspices of the TOOS mapping work that we have ongoing. We host these webinar series to spotlight water and sanitation data system tools used across sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. And the goal of the webinar is to promote shared learning and best practices, and ultimately enhance the use of sanitation data systems for performance management and service delivery within the utilities and municipalities. And the webinar series targets stakeholders from across Africa and the globe as a whole, which include regulators, utilities, municipalities, government, development partners, and donors. And it will provide the opportunity to all stakeholders to learn what others are doing and explore opportunities for potential collaboration and areas to strengthen sanitation service delivery from a data systems strengthening lens. And as mentioned again, the webinar series is complemented by learning materials that you could download. So for those that already have, you must have accessed it together with the registration link, but we will also share the supplementary learning material post this webinar, just so that you could have somewhere to refer to and continue to read on the different tools that are being spotlighted. Super excited once again to be hosting the fifth webinar in the series, and this particular webinar is spotlighting the Sanitracker, which we will hear a little bit more about in a few minutes. And we will learn about ESAWAS's Sanitracker digital system and how it can improve decision-making, service delivery, and overall performance management for the sector as a whole. And as mentioned, you have the opportunity to connect with like-minded peers and also network with development partners, donors, and other experts within the sector through this webinar series. As mentioned, the webinar series is brought to you by Dev-Afrique in collaboration with ESAWAS and the GWOPA network. And please feel free to continue engaging with us on the ESAWAS Engage platform and the urban sanitation community of practice on the GWOPA network. As mentioned, I am super excited to present the fifth webinar where we're looking at the Sanitracker, and just a snippet of what we are looking at today is that the Sanitracker is a digital system that allows residents within a utility or municipality's jurisdiction to request septic tank cleaning, pit emptying, or wastewater disposal from accredited sanitation service providers within their area. Developed by the ESAWAS Association, the Sanitracker aims to change and revolutionize how the residents, the communities actually connect with the fecal sludge and waste disposal service providers to provide that linkage and ensure that it's the bridge and ultimately also provide a user-friendly platform with an on-demand service model. And so feel free to scan the QR code just to have access to the learning material. But having said all of this, I think we are now at a time where we welcome our speaker today, Chisanga Chanda, who is the data system specialist at ESAWAS. Chisanga, over.
Thank you so much, Shuko. Lovely introduction, and definitely looking forward to sharing Sanitracker with everybody on here. Again, my name is Chisanga Chanda. I am the data system specialist here at ESAWAS, Regulators Association, and we're excited to dive right into the presentation on Sanitracker. So I am sure many of you have heard of what Sanitracker is, or you've heard of Sanitracker in your conversations with other peers. And we have specially organized this webinar just to bring this this system to the spotlight, to highlight how it will transform the whole fecal sludge management service. So next slide, please. Sanitracker. What is Sanitracker, right? Sanitracker is a real-time digital system which is designed to transform fecal sludge management through enhanced geolocation services, as well as just to streamline coordination, empowering 4 actors within the sanitation value chain. The actors that are empowered are the clients. They're empowered because they're given easy access to request and receive emptying services. The service operators have the ability to schedule, to transport, and to request dumping from treatment facilities with efficiency, given the abilities that the system has. The utilities, the commercial utilities that overlook the provision of services for sanitation services in the sector have a view or an overview of the way services are being provided, and this aids them in optimizing treatment plant operations, as well as just monitoring the service providers and subcontractors that they may be working with. And then we have the regulator ensuring that services are provided according to the standard operating procedures that have been laid out, according to the policies that have been laid out. They have the ability to now enforce high quality services, as well as follow up on complaint services across the board. So Sanitracker connects clients with licensed local providers, as well as ensures the access to nearby treatment sites. And with this digital system, Sanitracker will be setting a new standard in reliable, efficient sanitation service delivery. So now we need to understand what the sanitation sector is like. I would like to say most of us in this webinar at the moment have had the experience or the opportunity to just understand the various ways that sanitation works. There's a place of containment, and most of the times what we know is that the containment is connected to a sewer line that goes directly to a treatment center, right? But now with cities that are developing, with the increase in people in these urban and peri-urban areas, there is a need for a new way of sanitation service delivery, which is this that we have on our screen, right? We have an area of containment that goes into a septic tank or a pit latrine, right? And then there's the emptying that is provided either by the subcontractors under the commercial utility or service providers, right? And then there's the transportation factor, right? That the service providers have to transport this fecal sludge to a treatment center that is treated, and then it is reused either to beautify the community or to aid farmers with briquettes, for say their chicken farming business, and various uses. But again, like I mentioned, there are 4 actors in the sanitation value service chain, right? We have the regulators, we have the utilities, we have the service providers, and we have the users. So Sanitracker has been built to ensure that all actors within the sanitation service chain are provided for, right? The regulators have been given the ability to enforce compliance via the system's collection of accurate and real-time data. So the system, when, say, a user and service provider are using the app or the mobile application, the service provider will be able to see whatever changes are being made in real time. And this ability will give them the ability to just monitor the quality of services that are being provided, as well as uphold public health standards just across the sanitation sector. Utilities. One of the biggest issues that we have faced is utilities do not see where these private service providers are taking this treatment waste after, or this fecal sludge after they have dislodged from a containment site, right? With Sanitracker, the utilities can now oversee dumping jobs, right? They will ensure that the treatment plants, or they will have the ability to ensure that the treatment plants operate efficiently, and the subcontracted service providers will also be managed effectively because they have that oversight. Now we have the service providers and the users. And what are we trying to do with Sanitracker? We're trying to promote efficiency, and we're also trying to ensure that there's connectivity for service that is very much needed within the communities. So for the service providers, they have a mobile platform, and the platform allows them location-based services to identify and access nearby customers within their designated area, which I will speak on a little later, depending on what the regulator has put in place, right? And they will also have access to treatment plants, right? So there are initiatives that are underway at the moment for new cities with a treatment plant, or each city should have a treatment plant. And this will aid service providers in reducing their travel time, as well as boosting their overall service efficiency through the use of Sanitracker, right? But beyond all of these operational functions, right, what is Sanitracker trying to do? And what are we looking to do as ESAWAS? We're looking to foster connections, right? Users can link up with a network of licensed and verified and experienced sanitation service providers in their area, and making it easy for them to access these reliable services, right? And they are getting all of this through their mobile application. We're moving into a world that is completely digital, and unfortunately, there are no yellow pages that are easily accessible these days. And so most times users tend to go left, right, center, walk out of their community just to find a sanitation service provider. But with Sanitracker, we are providing a way to for them to connect directly with verified service providers. Okay, so the challenges of the sanitation sector. So we understand, and I would encourage our participants in this webinar to just put in some of the challenges that you face at each level of your profession. Say if you are part of the regulatory group, or if you are part of a utility group, or if you're just a user, what challenges do you face in the sanitation sector, right? So we have identified some of the challenges, right? Regulators need to enforce compliance, but how can they enforce compliance if they do not have data, right? They need to understand that with what is happening in this new developed area, we need this data to enforce and ensure that they're working together with the service providers to provide efficiency as well as reliability of fecal sludge management, right? If we're looking at just how much limited oversight there is to service quality, given the restricted access to certified service providers because of, say, maybe logistical obstacles, in the sludge disposal and in the treatment, most regulators are struggling to provide this data. Most utilities are struggling to provide this data. Sanitracker aids the regulators as well as the utilities to compile this data by working directly with the service providers that have been onboarded onto the platform, right? For the users, right, it's designed to ensure that they have ease of access to qualified people that can provide services. Most of the times we hear of these many pandemics that may happen around Africa. And it's not because the users want these pandemics to happen, it's because they do not know how to access certain services. So Sanitracker provides that option that users can connect with these service providers, understanding that they may have a utility in the area that provides water services for them. Using this system, using this mobile platform, they will be able to coordinate and ensure that the problems and the challenges that they face with regards to fecal sludge management are addressed. Moving on to the next slide. How is Sanitracker? How does Sanitracker come? It comes as a system, right? It comes as a mobile application, it comes as a web application, and there's a server that has data with it, right? Storing all of this data from the data collection of the users all the way to the data use of the regulators and the service providers and the utilities, right? So we will go through exactly the steps of Sanitracker, right? With the mobile application, how the users can sign up, how they can log on, you know, how they can request for services, how they can put in their facilities if they have an understanding of the type of facilities that they do have within, you know, their system. We're also going to go over just the benefits for each of the stakeholders, right? We need to understand and take a closer look on how Sanitracker will affect and serve these different stakeholders within the sanitation service chain provision. Because what we're trying to do with Sanitracker is just to provide robust oversight capabilities. You know, we're trying to enhance transparency. We're also trying to strengthen the accountability, you know, on all levels. We're trying to ensure that with this system, utilities, regulators, service providers gain operational insights that will provide data-driven decision or provide and support data-driven decision making, you know, just allowing them to improve their service. So what are the key functions of Sanitracker, right, for the user? Key functions of Sanitracker for the user are to request services. User is, in this case, a client, any client. They can access Sanitracker either using the mobile app, or they could be able to access Sanitracker using a USSD code, depending on what the country or the level of country services are provided. There's some countries that are typically way advanced with the use of mobile applications, and users are happy to download other applications. But then there are some users that use smaller mobile phones, right? And they will still be able to use Sanitracker to request any of these services, to select specific service providers if they're happy to work with specific service providers, as well as to pay for services. But just a word of warning, this pay for services is not a must for it to happen through Sanitracker. Depending on how the regulator, because we as ESAWAS are a regulators association, depending on how the regulator stipulates that Sanitracker should be implemented within their country, with their utilities, with their service providers, they would advise on how Sanitracker can fit within their already existing systems. So we are not building, or we haven't built Sanitracker as a disruptive application, but more as a complementary system that fits into, that has the ability to fit into already existing systems, right? And giving users the ability to easily adapt to the system through a system that they may already be using, or as a standalone system, as you may see in front of your screens, right? So the users will be able to request for these services, to select service providers, or if the regulator has stipulated that the service providers work in specific zones, the service provider will be assigned to them. And, you know, just to complete the user's service journey or purchase journey, it ends at them paying for services, right? And they're able to see just the number of jobs that they have requested. They're able to see the list of service providers that are available to them. They're able to see, just say maybe like an Uber application, they're able to see the costs or the predicted costs of services that they may be requesting for. So with the service providers, what do the service providers see? What are the key functions of a service provider? A service provider may be looking to empty, say, a septic tank, or to empty a pit latrine, and they may have different technologies that they do use, right? So here it mentions that the service provider can accept and receive jobs, schedule jobs, provide services, and request and execute jobs. But there is more to their functions other than what we see on the screen, right? As they are managing their jobs or accepting and receiving their jobs, they have the ability to select which tools exactly to be used for the job, and that would affect the costing for the client, right? So the client might select a service. It would give them just an average cost. That might not be the total cost of service. It might go up, it might go down, depending on the type of service that they need. So the service provider will have the ability to go in, edit, create a summary of the job through their notes. They'll be able to contact the client just to exactly see what the client may need. And they will also be able to locate exactly where the client is. You know, like I mentioned earlier, Sanitracker uses geolocation, right? Because we're trying to streamline the travel time for the service provider to the client as well as to the treatment center. When they're providing services, the service provider has got the option to add the type of services that they do provide. If it's pit emptying services, if it's maintenance services, if it's the creation of actual pits or septic tanks that are that follow the standard operating procedures or the construction procedures that have been set by the regulator, they're able to add all of those jobs. As the client is able to request all of those jobs as well, if the service provider has listed them. With the service provider, we're trying to streamline how much they can do, right? Most of the times, I'm sure people in this webinar are aware, there's a lot of bureaucracy that can be involved, you know, going to an office to sign up for a license, or to sign up for just to get certified. Sanitracker is trying to streamline all of that. So we have added a feature that allows the service providers to request licensing, to request to be verified service providers on the app, so that they can get jobs. If the service provider has not been verified through the app or by the utility or the regulator, depending on who they relate with per country, of course, they may not be able to receive these jobs. So we have streamlined that as well. It's got the options for the service provider to put in all their details from the trucks that they do use, to to the type of services that they do use, to taking pictures of their current licensing, to ensuring that they upload that they have the necessary vaccines to operate, you know, with this type of service, you know, knowing that there can be some risks to operating within the service. So the utility. For the utility, what is a utility trying to do? A utility is trying to ensure that the service providers that have been contracted, or the service providers, the private service providers that are working in the field, are providing efficient services, are providing quality services, not just to the clients, but also ensuring that they're able to follow the sludge journey, right, from pickup all the way to dumping at the treatment site, right? So as I mentioned earlier, there are 4 players that are involved. There is the user, there's the service provider, there's the utility, and the regulator. And within each of those, they have their own little faucets that come on the side. So most times in most countries, the FSTP is controlled by the utility, or in some cases, some service providers have got their own FSTP, but it is still it's still monitored and checked on by the utility. And so Sanitracker gives the utility the ability and the function to just have this bird's eye view on what is happening on the ground. From the comfort of their office, they will be able to see which client has been serviced, which client has not been serviced, which client has put up a complaint or hasn't exactly been serviced on the right time, or they were overcharged, if they were overcharged, depending on what's happening, as well as to follow up with the licensing of the service providers, just to ensure that we're providing the quality services, and a utility or commercial utility being a government body or reporting to a government body, they have this data that can allow them to do their jobs, as well as monitor just these non-sewered operations in real time and provide reports in real time. And we'll go to the next slide for the regulators. The regulators have got a mandate to ensure that the industry across the country, or under their regulatory mandate, is providing services, water services, sanitation services at a level that is satisfactory to the people that are receiving the services. So they have access to the country data, they have access to the utilities, they have access to the service providers, they have access to the users, and they also have the ability, just like the utilities, to accredit the service providers as well as the utilities, because as the regulator, they have this oversight to ensure that each of the service providers, utilities and private service providers together, are providing services at an optimal level, providing services at a level that is acceptable according to the standards that have been set by the country. So what are the advantages of Sanitracker, right? What is it that we're trying to do? We're trying to ensure that as much as we are providing this new technology, there is a way that people can live better, right? They can work better, they can manage their tasks better, they can plan better. And the good thing about Sanitracker is that we have designed it so that it is a self-sustaining, it has a self-sustaining revenue model where providers pay an affordable usage fee to use the system, just for ongoing system maintenance and upgrades. And again, this is all dependent according to the country context, right? If the service providers are working under the utility and they report directly to the utility, then there is a way that we have created a revenue model that fits that, you know. But we also have created a platform that is scalable and customizable, meaning we can adapt to the unique needs of different regions as well as regulatory frameworks. And we also just try to ensure the relevance of the services that are provided, and just ensure that the sanitation needs are met with Sanitracker as the sector continues to evolve, right? So with the users and the service providers, they're working better, you know, they were canceling out all the inefficiencies, you know, with the service providers, the utilities, the users inclusive. We're making the tasks of sanitation or fecal sludge management more convenient and manageable for them. You know, we're responding to a global call, right? And we're also just allowing for the utilities, the regulators, and the nation as a whole to plan better. You know, they have clear oversight of what's happening, you know, within the sector regarding sanitation. Understanding that sanitation is not something that is frequently reported on, right? So you also now have to think about the benefits of implementing Sanitracker, right? We say it works better. We say it allows us to manage our tasks better. It allows us to plan better, right? But there's also security and regulatory compliance that is involved, right? Because we're keeping the user's data safe with inbuilt security and protection. We're also giving the service providers and the utilities a competitive edge, right? People in this day and age want services that are provided, or they want to pay for the value of their services. It would be better for someone, or they take the option of going to an app, getting somebody that is accredited, right? And they pay for the value of that service, than walking down the street, getting overcharged, and then still complaining about their services, right? With the service providers, we're looking at productivity and collaboration between them, the utilities, and the regulators, right? For the longest time, we have heard various stories of how service providers and utilities don't see eye to eye. The reason they don't see eye to eye can be vast, or the reasons are vast, but excuse me, with Sanitracker, we are bringing a transparency to this part of the sector, sanitation and fecal sludge management, that allows for, you know, just the centralization of data. You know, we're allowing for not just interdepartmental coordination and collaboration within the utility, but just collaboration as a whole for the whole sanitation value chain, right? We're trying to ensure that the services that are offered, as well as the planning for the services, are cost effective, right? We're trying to streamline the process of collection of the fecal sludge to the dumping of the fecal sludge, as well as the treatment, right? And we also overall are just trying to provide some mobility and flexibility, right? Because we're creating a mobile app. This is for the users and the service providers, or allowing them to access Sanitracker through a USSD, right? Which will enable them to work remotely, right, from any location. So Sanitracker is so extensive that I could be here in Zambia, and we'll try and use that example. I could be here in Zambia, have properties, say in Kenya or in South Africa or in Mozambique or in Rwanda, anywhere around Africa, and I will be able to put in the facility that I have within my household, or within my company, or within the commercial utility that I am managing, put in the facility, request services, and Sanitracker will look for services as long as they're registered, you know, within the country. As long as Sanitracker is live within the country, they'd be able to receive those services and carry out those services. And the utility that service provider reports to will be able to oversee the services. The regulator as well will be able to oversee those services. And I'll be in a different country, say maybe attending a webinar like now, right? Next slide, please. We are looking at Sanitracker not just as a tool or as a system, right? We're looking at Sanitracker as a commitment, right? So what is our commitment? Our commitment is to sustainable sanitation, right? We are looking to change how efficient management of non-sewered sanitation services is looked at, right? We're creating an enabling factor, right, to efficient management of non-sewered sanitation services. And we're saying we're directly contributing to SDG 6, right, which, as we all know, aims to ensure access to water and sanitation for all, right? So Sanitracker supports equitable sanitation services, right? Especially for the underserved and peri-urban areas, right? And as Sanitracker gets on to expand and scale up, we're also going to be serving the rural areas, enabling and sensitizing the populations all around Africa to change the way they view sanitation, right? Next slide, please. So, in summary, Sanitracker, it's a tool, right? It's a powerful tool. It supports, sanitation, right? And we're responding to a call, right? Agenda 2063, right? Which reads prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development, right? Inclusive growth means inclusive sensitization to sanitation services. Inclusive growth means allowing people that may be underserved for certain services to have access to these services, right? So we're looking at this this statistic where it says less than 10% of Africa have access to connected sewer systems. That means the other 90% need services to be provided to them, right? And believe you me, not all the users in these in this 90% can comfortably say they can easily find a service operator in their area. So we are responding to this call with Sanitracker. Yes, so the more we know, right? Knowledge is of value unless we put it into practice, right? Data is of no value unless we put it to use, So with Sanitracker, we're trying to expand sector. There's an opportunity for them, if they're engineers, if they're scientists, if they're graduates that are just leaving school, they have the ability to use Sanitracker as a foundation point, right, to advanced sanitation service delivery, right? Earlier I spoke of 𝗦𝘆𝗶𝘁𝗶𝘁 one city, that's another core that has been put out there, right? So we're trying to improve the public health. We're trying to foster sustainable development of sanitation systems with Sanitracker. So at this junction, I'm going to run us through a demo, right? And the demo is going to cover not just the mobile application, but we're also going to look at the web-based application. We're going to see how a client can view their services, how they can order their services from the comfort of their homes, right? So just allow me to share my screen, and we shall be able to see how powerful Sanitracker is for the sector, right? So, okay, let's go back. This is the homepage. Once you've downloaded the app, you get to this homepage that says, welcome to Sanitracker, Smart Sanitation, right? That's what we're looking for. It's a quick tour, but it's not exactly a tour. It just tells you what Sanitracker provides, the ability to request services, the ability to provide services, and you get to choose based on which level you're on. If you're the user, if you're the service provider, what you're going to be doing. So signing up is pretty easy. We'll click on sign up. You can sign up as a client, sign up as a service provider, and we are yet to allow service providers, plant operators to sign up, because with plant operations, there are many other steps that need to be filled in regarding licensing, as well as operation levels of efficiency. So this section for plant operator only serves as a sign-in section, which we'll see later on. So I have already created a profile. It doesn't take long to create a profile, by the way, but since I've already created a profile, it'll be much easier for me to just go through the same. So as a client, you come in and you can log on, and we will put in some of my details. I hope nobody goes into this and tries to change my password, but it's okay. You will be able to see my password for now. 1, 2. And so we log on as the client. This is the 𝗲𝗲𝗂𝗔𝗪 dashboard that you see, right? You are able to see the services that can be offered to you by requesting for service. You're able to see the current orders that you have. If you have many orders, if you have any scheduled orders, you're able to see the facilities, you're able to see the total amount spent, you're able to see where you paid for jobs, where the job is still pending, and you're able to just see the services that are offered, to you, depending on the area that you're in, or depending on what the service providers have put up, or what the utility or regulator has put up. So these prices that you're looking at here, these are just demo prices. It's just to work through. Once we have onboarded, say, a client or a country onto Sanitracker, we'll have to sit down with the regulator. There's a whole onboarding process that we have to ensure that we understand the demographics of how sanitation is provided within the country, and adjust and customize Sanitracker to fit the pricing. And the pricings are not fixed, like I mentioned earlier. Excuse me, they are adjustable, right? And the service provider would also have the ability to adjust the prices based on the services that need to be provided, right? So we'll go back to our home screen and we will make an order, right? We will request the service. So we click on request for service. And again, this is my mistake. We're supposed to record our facilities. So let us imagine that we do not have any facilities recorded as a client, right? So we'll go in and we will say we are creating a facility. And the creation of a facility is not too difficult. Some clients may not know how to create a facility. So the service provider has the option to help onboard a client. Say if they know a client and they know of Sanitracker, the client wants to get into Sanitracker, the service provider has that option to onboard a client and help them create their account, help them add their facility off their own application and without having to get onto the client's application. So we'll say test webinar, right? And the facility category, this is very important, right? For a service provider to understand, they need to know what type of facility they're going to be, servicing. So is it a residential, is it a commercial, industrial, is it a mine, right? And so we'll just say residential for now, right? And we'll pick a service. Again, these services are just, it's basic for now. The services will increase as the service provider's input, or the regulator's input, or the utilities input that can be provided. So we'll say emptying for now, right? The volume. Most clients do not know exactly the volume of their sludge, right? So in this section, I'll just put the standard size pit latrine volumes that a pit can hold, which is 1,200 liters, right? Property description, we'll just say pit latrine, right? Plot number 123, webinar. A meter number, if there's a meter number, if there's none, we'll just put 0. Contact phone number, let's put in that contact number that you can reach me on 24/7, right? And the households, the number of households that use the pit latrine, we'll say 3, right? Let's imagine that we are in a peri-urban area and we're a client that is responding, from a peri-urban area. And the number of toilets, we'll just say 1, right? Containment type, this is where we get to select. So there are different types of containment types, as mentioned earlier. We've got septic tanks, we've got lined out latrines, we've got unlined pit latrines, and it's important for the service provider to know because they get to see all of this information once they're accepting a job, or they get to find out what type of containment type the client has. So we'll just say it's a lined out latrine, right? And we're ordering from Zambia. I'm from Zambia, so go Zambia. We're going to pick Zambia, right? And with Sanitracker, it goes into detail with the location, right? So if we pick Zambia, if we pick the county, it's supposed to just give it some time, but it's meant to load the counties within Zambia. What's happening? What's happening? Okay, let me just try add this facility. It seems to be stuck. Sorry about that. We'll start once more. That's the funny thing about technology, hey? When you try it out before, everything is working just fine, and then when it comes time to actually present it to somebody else, it just decides to crash. I've always found that funny about technology, but we shall conquer and start again. And I won't go through the whole facility process, even though I was hoping to show you just the different levels, but I'll be able to show you on the web-based version the different levels of facilities. I mean, of locations, like the location capture that it takes. So it takes the country, it takes the, say, the province, and then the constituency, and say maybe a ward that you live in, or say a township that you live in. It's able to pick up all of that. All right, so we'll log on and we'll just assume that we have created the facility, right? And we're going to order or request for a service. So we'll request for an emptying service. We'll put in our building name and we'll just say webinar building. And then we'll select the service provider. Say we're imagining that we know the service provider that we want to deal with. We can select that service provider, but there's also an auto assign option that is provided, right? So in this case, just for testing purposes and so it goes on quicker, we're going to select the service provider. That will be Lusaka Signing Services. I have already created this profile, so it will help out and make more sense as we go on further. And then we're going to say, where is this facility? Say we're imagining we've already created the facility. It is called test ST, Sanitracker for sure. And then we're going to request the service. Oh, forgot an important point. The client has got the ability to select exactly where on the map that they're going to be getting this service. So I am currently at Mulombo Close, and I'll just put my pin on the map. And this pin will be communicated with the service provider as well. Do I want to continue? Yes. Right. So we're at the client level. We have seen that this job has been scheduled. It's got a job ID. It's got which service provider will be providing that service, the time that we place the order, and how new the job ID is. So if I'm a service provider, I'm going to get a pop-up, right? But because we're logged in as a client here, we can't exactly see the pop-up. So we're going to log out and then log right back in as a service provider so that we'll be able to see the job, right? The job notification as well. So just allow me to log back in. It won't take too long. Again, for the creation of profiles, I will go into detail further once we go into, oh, I put in the wrong password, my apologies. I will go into detail once we get into the web-based version, because the utility and the regulator have got the ability to accept and deny the service providers that are registering They can all register, yes, and they can all have a profile, but for them to actually start accepting jobs, it would be up to the utility, if they have the authority, or the regulator to activate them based on what they do, based on the licensing that they do provide. So service provider dashboard. We can see the jobs, we can see the dumps, we can see the clients, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, that we can onboard clients, and we can see the permits. Like I mentioned earlier, service providers have now been given the ability to request for permits off of their phones, excuse me, with the drive for integrated management systems. They'd be able to put in their permit ID, take a picture of their permit, a live picture of their permit, upload it, and get verified, right? So if you look at the top right screen, there's that little one. It's a notification. That's the notification that will pop up, as well as have like a little pop-up. If you look at the screen right now, there are little notifications, Teams, little phone, and just another application notification, right? So even Sanitracker has a little pop-up notification if I'm logged into the application as a service provider, to know that is a job that has been allocated to me, right? And once I click on that job, I am able to see where the client is located, right? How far the client is from me, right? What type of service that the client is requesting, the name of the location that the client is at, the client's facility name, if they've given it a name, the client's job ID and name, as well as the time that it was requested. And like we said, we're trying to streamline the amount of time, or make efficient the travel time for the service provider to the client and to the treatment plan. So the service provider already, the application already calculates the best distance, or the shortest distance to take to the client. So they can easily just click on the pin and see their location. And just like using Google Maps, they'll be able to open Google Maps, and it would load for them where they need to go and what they need to do to get to that location, right? We're not going to spend too much time on Google Maps. We're here for Sanitracker, all right? They have the ability to contact the client. So the client, when onboarding, they've put in their email address, they've put in their phone numbers, an alternative phone number to contact, and there's also an integration of WhatsApp, right? Almost everybody uses WhatsApp these days, but if there are clients that don't use WhatsApp, that is fine. So the way most of sanitation services work is a service provider will receive a job, they will go to the client, inspect the place, and then once they have inspected the place, they decide how they're going to, or plan on how they're going to undertake the job. And that's why we have provided the option for them to contact the client, right? And once they have contacted the client, they have agreed on certain pricing, they can click on accepting the job, and right there and then would be able to schedule the job, right? So for purposes' sake, we'll say, okay, we'll schedule it for next Monday, right? Because I have other jobs today, and it's just my field officer that has gone to inspect and ensure that the job can be done. There's accessibility to the site that needs to be dislodged, right? And we'll say, okay, and we accept the job as a client. The client gets a notification on their mobile phone, and the service provider has the option, after they have scheduled the job, to either reschedule the job if they can't meet that time, or to click the completion of job once they have completed the job. So just to give you a point of view of the user, we're going to log out and log back in as a client, right? Just so that we can see that the job has actually been scheduled, right? And we will also see some other details of what Sanitracker provides to the user, right? So again, the user is going to see a little notification, and they'll click on their little notification, just like Facebook, excited, you see that the the service provider has accepted the job. You see the name of the service provider. You also, most importantly, have the option to contact the service provider, right? So say the service provider may have missed something, or you may have missed something and you need them to come back. You have the option to contact them and just, say maybe, request more services. We're still working on developing this. We haven't yet put in other features, but the client, just like an Uber, would have the option to cancel this job, right? Say if their services are no longer needed, they will have the option to cancel the job. But of course, once they cancel the job, the service provider will be notified as well. So we're going to log out, and we're going to go back, and we're going to fast forward to next week, Monday, and the service provider has completed the job. Everybody's happy. The client is happy. The population is safe. We are now going to go into billing, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, depending on how the users or the regulator would like to integrate Sanitracker into their country system of service provision, Sanitracker can provide e-payment services, but in Africa, there's the use of money. Most people want to use hard cash or digital mobile money, right? So as a service provider, you have a scheduled job, right? So you go to your total number of jobs, right? And you've got an accepted job, right? And now you have completed the job. So you click on complete job. Sure, you want to say you've completed the job. Yes. And it loads a screen for payment details, right? So in this scenario, we are saying the service provider has received cash outside the application, right? So they will put in the amount. Say for this services to the sludge, remember we said 1,200, right? For a lined pit, we'll say for that much sludge, we're gonna cost the client, because we also had to clean. We also had to reinforce the pit latrine to make sure that it is up to standard with the standards that have been set by the United Nations or the regulator. For all those services, we're going to charge them. This is in dollar, by the way. The currency can be changed depending on the country that you're in. We can adjust the currency. We'll say we're going to charge this client $150, right? Maybe that's a little too much, but we'll just go with $150, right? And we're also going to be able to have the option to put any notes that need to be put in. So there's the geolocation that has been taken for the client. There's the client information that has been placed. There's just a number of demographic points that have been placed. But for the option for the service provider, because they have to create reports, they have the option to put, say, just for notes for their own memory, what type of technology they used, what job they completed, what they did, and confirm that they have received payment. Again, the notes is optional, but here, if we remember the sanitation service value chain, we've gone from containment to emptying, and now we're in the transportation phase, right? We've collected our money, and now we're transporting the sludge, right? But we just can't take this sludge anywhere as a service provider, right? Especially a licensed service provider that is using Sanitracker. So we're going to request a dump, right? So we go on to dumps. We have to select an FSTP that is around us. So with Sanitracker, say we're living in such a great city, assuming we're living in such a great city, there are several FSTPs that are available, right? So it gives you the option to pick the ones that are closest to you, right, in order, and also the ones that are available and the ones that are not available, right, or are closed. So let us pick Lusaka water and storage, because we're in Lusaka, right? And we'll just say status or capacity. Let us say 1200. Oh, sorry. we'll just say ready. And then estimated volume is 1200 liters of sludge, right? Done. And then we have the option to select. So say the service provider has got, say maybe 12 operation teams in the field, right? And there's this gentleman that's communicating with each one of them. He's able to select, okay, so this truck is working here and they've got this, to select the dump. Remember the name of the facility where the sludge is coming from. We select that and we request the dump, right? And so that has been processed, and now it records that the transaction is complete from the user all the way to the treatment plant. Now we're going to the point of view of the FSTP, right? The plant operator. What is it that they see? What type of notifications do they get once the service provider has requested to dump and they are listed as available? Right, so let's say WSC, Osaka, oh, I had it there, here we go. WSC ST 2024. So they're able to see the dumping requests, right? And they see that this gentleman has requested for dumping, and they see the location of the FSTP. If they have a number of FSTPs within the same user login, it will label. So right now, this user only has 𝗏𝗏 as the name of their FSTP. So they'll be able to go in, they'll have the option to contact the service provider just to verify that the service provider has put in this request. They will be able to communicate on a number of issues on regarding the, say, maybe the veracity of the sludge, or just the to characterize what it is that they're bringing, the sludge, or is it wastewater? What is it that they're bringing to this treatment plant, right? And later on, the Sanitracker, like I mentioned, fully customizable. They too will be able to add notes, you know, per the conversation they have, which will be reported, you know, onto the utilities dashboard as well as the regulators dashboard. So say they have accepted the job, right? Over call, they proceed to accept. The service provider has come to the plant. They have seen. Later on, they'd be able to take a picture of the truck, make sure that it's the actual truck that has brought the sludge to the treatment plant. It's all going to be recorded. It's going to be processed, and the utility and the regulator get they get a notification to say, or it updates on their dashboard to say this sludge has been dumped at this FSTP by this service provider, and it is coming from this specific location owned by ABCD, right? Internet's a little slow on my phone, so it's not loading. So now I'm going to share my screen for what it looks like from the utilities point of view. Just give me a minute as I switch to my laptop. All right, if someone can confirm that they can see my screen, great. I can't exactly see what you're saying. So we're going to log in. Let us imagine CJC is a utility or a regulator, right? So this is our dashboard, right? And again, please confirm if you can see my screen. I'm not able to see what is being shared at the moment.
Yes,
this is okay. Great, thank you, Shuko. This is our dashboard, right? We're able to see the time, you know, login, you know, login screen. We're able to see the service providers available, the clients, the plant operators, the scheduled jobs, the dumps, you know, and again, this is fully customizable. I'm logged in as a super user at the moment, but for these sections, we will be able to see, say, the service providers per province, right? So let's forget that it says country over here. Let's think about it as provinces. So we can say Zambia province has got 43% of service providers. South Africa province has got this, or counties. Kenya uses counties. I think Uganda uses provinces or counties, and same with South Africa. Just depending on what country you are in and how you partition the country by province or by county. This is what you see over here. And then you're, depending on the specific county that you do select, you'll be able to see exactly how many users within that province or within that county that are providing, users within the province and within the county, right? So you're able to see all of that as well. If we scroll down, you're able to see the total number of jobs dependent on the job ID. So we can see this is the last job that we just had, the client's name, the service provider, and the status of the job, right? And you're able to go through to see from the very first job on Sanitracker to the very last job, right, on Sanitracker. And this, for the utility, like I said, will be able to provide them with the ability to just see exactly what's happening on the ground, right? And there are many accountability points, right, from the client to the service provider to the status of the job. You're also able to see what the FSTPs around town are able to, are the requests that are coming in to the FSTPs. And depending on what you may know, say maybe the capacity of the FSTP, you would be able to communicate with the FSTPs and say, listen, with this FSTP or with this dump that's incoming, you might need to redirect it to this place, or you might need to send it to that place to ensure that there's just a balance with how the sludge is moving around. You're able to see the service providers, right? The ones that are active, as well as the ones that are inactive, the ones that have requested for permits, right? Because most of the times, you're trying to ensure that you have verified users that have got the right permits, the right vaccinations, maintaining PPE, policies, and you'd be able to go. So, and we are also able to customize these dashboards according to what the regulator or what the service provider, would like, the utility would like to see. So this goes into detail. Like I mentioned, we're able to see the users, right? The users that are available. We're able to create a report, because again, how is it that we're just collecting all this data? We are supposed to be able to use this data, allow it to just load, but we're also meant to report this data. So I just got a message that I'm a little way over time with my presentation. So I'll just try to peruse through. Each of these areas has the options to add, to create reports, to just to show at each level what is happening, right? So with the jobs, with the facility types, with just at the whole value chain, we have captured the whole value chain of sanitation services. And with the reports, it can be exported into Excel or printed out directly. You're able to just to pick specifics about the report if you're concerned only about septic tanks, if you're concerned only about certain categories of facilities, residential, commercial, if you're concerned of those that are completed or those that are new for planning purposes, the service provider that is providing those services, for services that have been paid and not paid. You're able to see just the number of the journey of the services at each point. You know, even with the plant operators, you're able to create reports. So for each section, for the users, you're able to create reports. For the sanitation service providers, you're able to create reports. For the regulators, the utilities, you're able to create reports as well. I have been made aware that I have gone way over time, so I will pause here for any questions and answers that we may have, or for the 5-minute break, and then questions and answers. Correct, Shuko?
Thank you, Chisanga, for that amazing and very, very elaborate presentation. At this point in time, we will take a 5-minute break just to allow everyone to stretch a little, grab some water, grab some coffee, and then come for the Q&A session. We already have a couple of questions to go over, and so as soon as the 5-minute mark elapses, we will dive right into the questions. So see you all back shortly. Great, thank you. And I hope everyone is back. Thank you for staying on. We will get right into our question and answer session. And we already had a couple of questions in the chat. Just a note that everyone's microphone has been unmuted. So feel free to raise your hand and ask the questions. I think a couple of the questions that we had have already been answered, but I will, call out everyone that asked those questions just to seek clarity whether they have further questions or their questions have been clarified. And I think the first.
Sorry, Shuko, just as you do that, I was requesting to just share my screen and just go. I'll be answering the questions still, but I will be going through the web-based platform just for people to appreciate, say from the regulator. But please go ahead. I'm just imagine the demo is still going on. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Chisanga. Thank you. So the first question we had in the chat was from Loretta Roberts. Just wanted to check, Loretta, have your questions been answered, or do you still need some clarity? I will pause for you to unmute and just ask your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, it hasn't been answered. I think the presenter said that, please, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can.
Okay. And that the service providers pay a certain fee, and that's what they use to maintain the system. And I just wanted to know how it was paid. Is it a fee that's paid anytime you use the facility? I'm just interested in the mechanism. And then also I wanted to know how the updates are done. I know systems like this need to be updated from time to time to be relevant. And that's why usually people would opt for a private sector managing it instead of the public sector. So I just wanted to know, since this is being done by the public sector, how is that being catered for? Thank you.
Great. That's a great question, Loretta. So for the revenue models, as you mentioned, they are maintenance as well as, service upgrades that need to be catered for on the application, right? Or on the system, the web-based system. And the way we cater for this is by creating a revenue model. This say application serves all parties, right? But most importantly, it serves the service provider, right? So the service provider has access to a vast array of clientele, depending on how the regulator has stipulated within the country. If the service provider can operate within a specific zone, then that's the client base that they deal with. So they have this access, and they are practically paying for this access. So Loretta, I'm going to assume that you have operated, say, maybe an Uber service, right? So the way most Uber services operate is the service provider, which is the driver, puts in a small fee, right? At least in Zambia, what we do with our Yangos, which is just another type of Uber, is that they put in a floating fee, right? So say they put in $100, and from that $100, for every trip that they take, there's going to be like a little percentage subtraction from that, right? So with our service model, what we have done is that we're not trying to get to that percentage. We have just made it so that there is an annual fee that the service providers, pay, right? And as we continue to upgrade Sanitracker further, there are going to be different types of, payment levels, where they can either pay for, level 1 service, premium service, VIP, and with that, they're able to have just different functionalities on the app. But as it is, as a skeleton as it is right now to start, we are saying there's going to be an annual fee that they'll pay. And then once they have serviced the client, they are going to deal with the client, and they're going to agree on how it is that the client is going to pay, either if they'll pay cash or not. I don't know if I answered all the questions. I may have missed some. Please remind me if I didn't. I wasn't rating.
Okay, thank you. Maybe just the updates of the software. Thank you.
Oh, yes. So the updating of the software, what we're doing as we are rolling out Sanitracker into different countries, we are going in through the regulator. So we're creating buy-in from the regulator first of that country or of that state or of that province, right? And what we are doing is we are ensuring that the regulator is capacitated. They have staff within their existing, say, company or organization that will be trained on how to update Sanitracker. And then from our end, as the original developers, we're simply going to be sending out packages, right? So a package that they will be able to simply just click on accept. It will update. We'll send them some training materials that they will be able to see. So with each country, we're just giving them access to the platform. We've already set up a server for it, and we're going to be using that server to store that data, and they will have access to data specifically to their country or say to their service area. So the maintenance happens from our end as well as their end. It's a two-fold system.
Thanks. Thanks, Loretta, for those questions, and thanks, Chisanga. We had another set of questions from Nandita Cotwell, and the first question was, what sort of data does the system capture? Volumes, type of sludge and facility, neighborhood location. So just trying to get a sense of what data the system captures, and I think you touched on this in the presentation, Chisanga. And
yes.
Then the second question was, for users, can they send a generic request, or does it have to be a request to specific service providers? I know you touched on this, but maybe if you could just reiterate your points on this as well. And then the last question from Nandita was, are there any provisions for scheduled dislodging within the app? And then I'll pose one last question, Chisanga, so that you at least answer all of these. There was a question from Kennedy Kamau, who wanted to understand what the app's adoption levels are among various client segments. That's the customers, service providers, utilities, and regulators. So you could answer these questions, and then we'll come back for the next set.
Okay, so the questions are regarding scheduled dislodging, editing service requests, app adoptions, and what else? I think there were
those are the three main buckets.
Okay, so for I'll start with scheduled dislodging, right? Given that the regulator has the mandate to ensure that services are provided to the people that they oversee, they have the ability to set a schedule within this system as to which areas would receive scheduled dislodging, right? And so the way this works is if a regulator has mapped out, say, a province, and within that province they have 20 areas that need to be served, or 19 areas that need to be served, they have also, depending on how the regulator does it within the country, they can choose to assign specific service providers to the same, or they can allow for just the system to automatically assign a service provider to the client that needs that scheduled dislodging, or if it's the area that needs scheduled dislodging, and then it will be up to the service provider to go door to door to ensure that they're inspecting the latrines or the septic tanks that need to be dislodged, and then scheduling jobs with the clients, right? So the regulator can send out, say, like a notification to all the service providers to say this area has been set to be dislodged. You can either go client door to door, or they can specifically choose where the service providers are going to go. For editing service requests, this is a good question because most clients do not know what type of facilities they have, or say maybe the amount of sludge that may be in there. They do not have the ability to test any of these, to calculate how much sludge they may be. So the service provider, like I had shared earlier, does have the option to edit the client's request, right? So they have that little client section. I was really hoping I could have shown you more, but they have the little client section where they can go in based on their requests, put in the notes that there's this much sludge, put in the exact pin location. Say if they haven't gotten the pin location right and they're using USSD, they're able to go in and change all of that and then help them. For application adoption levels, I'm going to assume that you mean how well do people, or how much access do they have to this application. So the application has been made available on the App Store within specific countries that are already in the process of rolling out Sanitracker. So this is Zambia, this is Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, right? And for the clients, they can easily download the application. They can easily sign up, say if they have all the information, if they've got a valid phone number, a valid email address. For the service providers, they can sign up. I had gone through how the service provider has got the option to say, create their profile, upload their licenses, request to be certified so that they can start receiving job requests from clients, and complete jobs, schedule jobs, report on what it is that they're seeing on the ground for each job. For the commercial utilities don't exactly use the mobile applications. They've got the option to use the mobile application, meaning as a client or as a service provider, but we focused Sanitracker to give them this dashboard, meaning they have access to see the operations that are happening, within their scope of work, right, or their area of service. For the regulators have got the ability to see what is happening within the country. As I was explaining earlier, we're not going to follow what it's saying here, but we'll think of these countries, say, as provinces, right? And the regulator will be able to see just the number of users per province or per area, and they'd be able to edit these dashboards. So I hope that answers the question on application adoption. At least that's the way I understood adoption to be. But if you mean something else, please feel free to chime in, and I can do my best to answer your question.
Thanks, Chisanga. I will move to, not sure if Kennedy's question was answered, but if it was, I'll move to the next set of questions. And there was a follow-up to Kennedy's question from Nandita Cotwell, and the question was, are utilities regulators also able to access this app and data? And I think you just, spoke to that as well, right? That it's at various levels. The client has access, the service provider, the utility, and the regulator have various levels of access. And so I will move to another set of questions. Gabriel Adusu. Thanks, Chisanga. Quite interesting. I want to know who manages Sanitracker and ensures it is always up and running. And then 𝗦𝗫𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗀 asked a question around, apart from the estimated volume, are there other parameters used to gauge the pricing for the services? For example, emptying. And then I'll ask one last question, and then you can answer all of them at once. Marshall Zuze asked a question on, does this tracker, is it only used for sewage management? If so, does it detect pipe burst that service provider can be notified from mobile application or web application? So those are the 3 buckets of questions.
Okay, thank you, Shuko, and thank you to all that asked these amazing questions. For the management of Sanitracker, ensuring that it's up and running, there are no downtimes, ensuring that there are no glitches in the app, safety of the client's data, the regulator's data, and the utilities data. That is our prerogative. So we as ESAWAS work with a consultant that ensures that Sanitracker is always up and running. We have a contract with them, and this will be ongoing forever, inshallah. Right? And for the parameters of services provided, I'm not too sure. I may have, or you may have. No, I'm not going to say that. For the parameters of services provided, we ensure that the service providers have the ability to list out the services that they do provide, right? It all ties together, right? So if a service provider has got more services to offer outside just emptying, so I mentioned they could offer services to, say, construct, say, a septic tank or sewage, or pit latrine, a lined pit latrine, basically construct all the containment services or containment points or types that may be in their scope of work, they are able to put in the same within the app, as well as ensure that the pricing fits, their work of service or the quality of the service that they are providing. Of course, all of this is monitored by the utilities to ensure that people are not getting overcharged, but also ensuring that the services that they will be providing will be, top-notch or according to standard operating procedures. For sewage management, so this application, Sanitracker, was built for non-sewered sanitation purposes, right? But if, as we go, given that Sanitracker is fully customizable, as the technology increases, there will be integrations, that can be placed into Sanitracker that will respond to some of these sewage management issues, as well as requests. It's all going to be up to the regulator or the utility that we're dealing with to communicate with us and let us know exactly what areas of service they may need and how it is that they need to be provided for. Thank you.
Thanks, Chisanga. And then I'll move to the next set of questions. Is the Sanitracker only available on Android? And Musa from Ethiopia is interested in implementing this application within their utility. So they're asking if you could provide the cost for implementation of the Sanitracker. And then I'll ask the last two, just so you take all of them at once, because I can see we're almost at time, but just want to make sure we don't leave any questions unattended to. And so the last two questions that I'm seeing is, how does the app assist in resolving a complaint from client concerning poor service provision by the service provider in a particular area? And then the last question is, apart from commercial utilities, can the app be utilized by private emptiers, and how do they register, if this is possible? Over.
Thank you so much. These are great questions. Yes, at the moment, Sanitracker is only available on Android, but like I said, this is simply just a skeleton version. We will continue to upgrade, as well as ensure that all operating systems are covered for iOS, Windows. For utility in Ethiopia, this is a great question. Given that we are a Regulators Association, ESAWAS Regulators Association, our onboarding process requires that we operate through a regulator within the country, right? This just goes on to more than just our policy, as well as for accountability for our sake, as well as just respecting different countries' data policies, as well as security measures, right? For the costs of implementation, this is it's a varied cost, because with the implementation of Sanitracker, we're talking mostly about training. We have to train the utility to use the same. We have to train the service providers that will be using the application to use the same. So depending on the cost of services or the number of people that will be attending this training, that's where a huge chunk of the cost comes in. Again, we have to remember that this Sanitracker application has been created as a self-sustaining system, right? Where the utility or the service providers that are providing the service are the ones that are paying for Sanitracker. But for the onboarding process, we are only, or for the implementation process, say if you've got an existing ERP system, this would be a cost that we would have to discuss on further detail, depending on what systems you have in place, if you have any, or if you just want Sanitracker as a standalone system. as a standalone system, we're saying, okay, yes, it can be onboarded. We can onboard you onto the system. Now we just need you to give us the numbers of the people that will be trained, the people that will be managing the system within your utility, as well as the people that will be using the system, as a whole. Just an estimate, like a rough cost, To the other question of complaints for users, how does the application assist for complaints for users? So the application has got a chat box feature, right? Where the application, the user can send out a complaint. We have to remember the regulator as well as the utilities are monitoring, the service, right? So if the user is not too happy with the service that has been provided, they have the option to put in feedback point or message, and it can be directed to the utility or the regulator, right? They also have the service provider's information. If they are aware of the utility that operates within their area or the service provider that operates within their area, they have the option to contact them as well. Because we got to remember, the service providers that are operating on Sanitracker are licensed and verified, so that means they have a place that they do report to. Can it be utilized by the private sector? Yes, very much so. We are currently working with the Pan-African Association of Sanitation Actors, PASA for short, and they are an association of sanitation actors that specialize in FSM services, right? Ensuring that they are giving a voice to the private sector operators. So even the private sector operators can be onboarded onto Sanitracker, but like I mentioned earlier, you have to go through, we as ESAWAS would have to approach through the regulator to create country buy-in, and then go on to the next steps with the utility and the private service providers. To just create more to respond more to Ethiopia regarding cost of implementation, please feel free to email us at secretariat.sawas.org, and we will address all of your questions regarding onboarding costs through email.
Thank you, Chisanga. And thank you all for the insightful questions and discussion. Super exciting content. And to wrap up, we've come to the end of our discussion. We will continue having summary discussions on the ESAWAS Engage platform and on the GWOPA Urban Sanitation COP, just to have some post webinar engagement, and also for more interactive chat sessions. But as Chisanga has indicated, if anyone has any specific requests with regards to the Sanitracker, there's an email in the chat that you could reach out to, and the ESAWAS team will be more than happy to answer any of the requests that you may have. As we come to the end of the webinar, just wanted to highlight a few next steps. So moving forward, we will be sharing the recording of today's webinar. So you will receive a post-webinar email that will have the presentation that Chisanga made on this webinar, and then you will have a link to the video and also access to the learning material, just so that you have all the required resources to help you get more insight and context on the Sanitracker. And then we also encourage you, as mentioned, to stay engaged on the ESAWAS Engage platform, on the GWOPA Urban Sanitation COP platform as well, and to join the series. We will continue on this webinar series to spotlight the different data and operation management systems that are being used in Sub-Saharan Africa, and drawing best practices from some of the systems that are being used in South Asia. So feel free to scan the QR code just to get involved in the broader project, and also to gain insights on how you could work with ESAWAS and Dev-Afrique on the broader buckets of work that we had highlighted. A big thank you to our speaker, Chisanga, and most importantly to all our participants for joining today's session and making it a successful webinar. Your engagement is really critical to advancing the strengthening of sanitation and overall wash data systems across our ecosystems at country level, but even more broadly at the continental level. And we hope that this session was valuable to the work that you are doing, and see you in the next webinar. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you all, and connect soon.